everyone who follows Trump, works for Trump, professionally has always had their reputation destroyed or their lives destroyed. And the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is no different. It was embarrassing to watch him in the hearing today with respect to tariffs when he was asked a simple question. Who pays the tariffs? Who pays Trump's taxes? Who pays the tariffs that Trump created? And it's simple. It is all the Americans who buy products. They pay the tariffs because, again, the supplier is going to pay it at the port, and that charge is automatically passed on to the consumer. Economics 101. But in order to serve Donald Trump, one has to become as moronic, as unintelligent, as lacking of intellect that Donald Trump possesses. And why? Because if one ever seems to disagree with Trump, if one of his minions ever seem to be more intelligent than Trump, that goes against Trump's own ego. Because as a narcissist, he just cannot have anyone but him being on top. So therefore, we have otherwise intelligent people like Marco Rubio, otherwise intelligent people like Scott Bessent, otherwise intelligent people like many of the other characters that work for him. I'm not talking about the sycophants like, let's say, Hegseth, who is a complete incompetent drunk, but or his transportation secretary. But he has a few, or his education secretary who thinks AI is actually A1 steak sauce. I don't know. We ought to, first of all, I tell you what, let's take a listen to this segment from O'Donnell's show, and then we'll take it on the other side. This is embarrassing.
Donald Trump, in that idiotic statement, invited yet another focus on his choice to be the Scrooge president, which is what Republican political analyst Karl Rove is now calling him, the Scrooge president. Donald Trump's example of there being only $2 under the Christmas tree this year, which earned him the nickname Donnie $2 on this program last week, has quickly and vividly taught any Americans who did not already understand it that we are the ones, and the only ones, who will pay the Trump tariffs. Every penny of an American tariff, every penny of a Trump tariff will be paid and can only be paid in the United States by American companies and consumers. Tariff revenue enters the Treasury of the United States only from within the United States. Every Treasury Secretary from the first, Alexander Hamilton onward, has known that. Every member of Congress has always known that. Every member of the Senate, every president always knew that. But today, with Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary testifying to Congress, knowing that lying is against the law, he tried desperately to evade a very simple question posed by our first guest tonight. Who pays tariffs?
Who pays tariffs?
Sorry, well...
Who pays tariffs?
Sorry,
Mr. Secretary, please.
Excuse me.
The question is very simply, who pays tariffs, Mr. Chairman? I'd like him to answer that question.
Well,
he wants to answer other questions.
Well, Congressman, if the exporters, they dislike tariffs so much, why wouldn't they? If I think what you're trying to get me to say...
Did you remember the question? I'm not sure you did. Who pays tariffs?
It's a very complicated question.
Reclaiming my time. People pay tariffs, right? Reclaiming my time, Mr. Secretary. Reclaiming my time, Mr. Secretary. As a small business owner, and unfortunately, I'd like that time back since you failed to recognize me for 30 seconds. So I just recently, from one of my suppliers, got the tariff surcharge on things. And in addition to the tariff surcharge, guess what else got raised? American-made walnut plaques. That has nothing to do with tariffs, but companies take advantage and do that. So right now, we are getting screwed right and left because of the indiscriminate use of tariffs. That's the reality for Main Street. So I'll ask one more time, who pays tariffs?
Sir, the history would show that it is a complicated mix of who pays the tariffs over various times.
So that's exactly the problem. If your answer, and you are a very educated person, you have a very impressive bio, cannot answer the question who pays tariffs because you won't answer that, and you say it's a complicated issue, it's not complicated. Consumers pay Trump's tariff tax. That's the reality.
You just saw a Treasury Secretary flunk an introductory economics course on TV.
So yes, Scott, Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary, simply could not open his mouth to tell the truth. And he couldn't, because once he did that, he would be fired and his career would be over. It is sad to see that this is what it means to be someone who works for Trump. Now, look, let's be clear. The storm is coming, because while Donald Trump is delusional, while Donald Trump has nothing to lose, while Donald Trump is using these tariffs, and one of the reasons, if you look at his interview or the back and forth he had with the reporters and the presser today, when they asked if there's any way he was going to drop the tariffs, he's absolutely said no, is that he needs the tariff for the tax cuts to work. For it to work, that's all he got. That's the only other stream of revenue he has. Taking the monies from the poor and middle class people into the Treasury of the United States so that that money can be transferred immediately to the wealthy with a tax cut. Again, our MAGA brothers and sisters, or people in rural America who are going to lose their hospitals, who are going to lose their many of their postal workers, who are going to use many of their federal workers, which will devastate the economy of many rural areas where the highest paid workers are, in fact, these government workers who spend their monies in the restaurants in these small towns, in the gift shops in these small towns, in the bars in these small towns. That money will no longer be there. That high salary from the government for good work will no longer be there. And all of that to pay for a tax cut to wealthy folks. You want to know what's interesting? If you want to see where their heads are at, ask the Republicans to do the following. Okay, let's make sure and keep the tax cuts for all folks making under $400,000. And let the taxes for those people who make more expire. And in fact, apply a tax cut commensurate with all the tax increase commensurate with all the tax cuts that have blown the budget in the past. And you'll get crickets. They will not do that because they don't care about the pennies that the middle class and the poor will get in tax cuts. It's pennies. And you know what? After the middle class and poor gets that tax cut, all of it is going to be recovered by the corporatocracy by simply juicing up inflation, juicing up the prices of medical care, etc. So they'll take the money right back as soon as they give you that tax cut. We have to understand how these things work, folks. It's a shame that too many just won't get it because we have a media that doesn't spend enough time on educating our folk. But you know what? That's where we are. And that's where we come in. That's where Politics Done Right comes in to fill that gap that these mainstream media conglomerates refuse to do because it likely would affect their bottom lines.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.